What's up, YouTube? This is Ryan from Ox Audio in Philadelphia. Today we're going to be doing a remote start in a 2013 Infiniti G37x. So stay tuned and I will walk you through the steps to get this baby done. Alright, so first things first, you got to loosen up your dash components. I've already gone ahead, loosened up a couple things. So there's two bolts under here. You can use either a 10mm or a Phillips head to take off your hood release. Then you're going to pop the side panel off here. You come down, you just grab it at the bottom, throw it up on top of the dash out of your way. There are no bolts holding this thing in. That's it. Pop it out. And you're going to come over here. You got your three connectors. So you got 1, 2, 3. Your key port connector down here. OBD2 connector down on the bottom there. And I think on this install we'll be using the key port, the OBD2, a couple harnesses up at the push to start switch up top. Bear with me because I'm using a new camera with a gimbal and I'm trying to learn how to work it. But yeah, so I'll get these unplugged and then we'll get back into it. Alright, so now that those are unplugged, next step, which is not 100% important, you don't really have to do this, I just do it to make a little bit more room. 4 10mm bolts under here. Also in the previous step there is a temperature sensor and the tube that picks up the temperature, so that gets unplugged from the lower dash panel as well. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those and get started. Alright, so for this install we're actually using an Omegalink remote starter, which is a nice system. It's plug and play for the most part. It's all T-harnessed. There's 2 wires that you need to connect that are not in a T-harness. Well, they're part of the T-harness, but they're not an actual T-plug. So this is your module, which does need to be flashed before you start the install. If you don't flash it, it's not going to work. Alright, so this plug here, this is your T-harness. These plugs are going to go into the brain for the remote start. They're going to come down. This is just a relay pack or something, I believe. Then you have the OBD2 plugs. Basically everything is labeled and you just need to follow through the directions to see where everything goes. But we're going to start putting it in and I'll show you as we're going along. Alright, so if we come in here and we look at our directions, I don't know how well this is going to focus. We have our module. Every connector that comes off of our T-harness is labeled. And basically, you're going to follow all those harnesses over and they're going to come up. So we got our push to start connector we're going to need to get to, our OBD2 connector that we're going to get to, the brake switch, the immobilizer connector, and this says the BCM, but the BCM is really useless. You don't really need to go there. And I'll tell you why. In this car, well, at least in this application, we're not doing aftermarket remotes. We're tying it right into the factory remote. So the lock and arm wire, the unlock and disarm wire are useless. They're only needed when you're doing aftermarket remote kit. Now the driver door pin switch is at the BCM, but it's also on the driver's side where you're already working. So why waste the time to go all the way over there? So your driver door pin's right here. So I can pretty much guarantee you that the wire is going to come down, run through your kick sill, up into your kick panel, and you're going to be able to find that wire right there. So next step, I'll show you everything getting connected and then we'll keep moving on. I'm going to note the connectors that we just went over. So your push to start switch is right here. It's tricky, but you don't have to take everything apart. You can go underneath. Where's it at? Come on. So right up there, you can see the little pin in the center. We can get to that without taking everything apart. At least we're going to attempt to. We should be able to. And you come down here, you have your brake switch. That's your brake switch plug right there. And you have your, remove this light. And you have your OBD2 plug here. Your immobilizer plug is this one, I believe, which goes into the key port on your dash. Okay, so what I did here, I reached up with a pick tool The blue connector is the push to start switch. I hit the little tab in the center of the brown plug, it popped right out. And you can also unplug, you can pull the whole switch out if you want to make it easier. There's two tabs of the out. Let me just pull it down so you can see it easier. When you have your push to start switch out, there's a tab here, there's a tab here. That's all that holds it in the dash. So if you can get one of those tabs, you can most likely just wiggle the guy right out. So your T-harness is going to go up, it's going to plug into this one, and then the other side is going to go back into your factory harness. So I'm going to show you. So this is the way that a T-harness works. If you don't know, it comes out of your module, it branches off. The plug on top here was the plug that went into our brake pedal switch, so that used to come up into there. So instead it just plugs into here, then branches over, and then it goes in, and it gives us an easy install. That's the whole point of this. Okay, now this is the same for all of them. There's one that runs up to your push to start switch. Same thing, OBD2 plug, and they're just going to run around the heart. Okay, so your next step is to make sure that all your harnesses are secure. So you're going to run them down. You want to make sure they're not in the way of any moving parts, because you could short something out if something gets caught up in a steering column or a screw motor for a steering column that moves in and out, a brake pedal, anything that moves. You got to make sure it's away from there and it's solid. So we got to zip tie it here, zip tie it here, zip tie it here, and we're going to bring it over. I'll probably end up throwing another zip tie right about there, so that whole harness is solid going all the way across. Then what we're going to do is come down here to our plugs. We're going to plug our module in, and then after that we will be set. All we have to do is plug the key port right here back into the dash to program it. Alright, so your next step is to plug all these plugs into your module. You want to make sure that you plug the right ones in. They're labeled. In our case, we are using MS2 into the blue port. There is another one that will fit, so don't plug the wrong one in. Although I have seen these mislabeled where they just stick the labels on the wrong spots, and you plug it in, you can't figure out why the damn thing won't program for a while until you call tech support and then realize, okay, but now I know in the future if it ever happens, I just flip-flop the two and then it's been good to go. This is the plug. I ended up cutting all these wires except for the gray wire short in case they ever do decide to add the remote package, and we can use the other wires. But you're left with two wires, white wire, gray wire. Your white wire is your parking light wire, your gray wire is your driver door pin switch, which is basically a wrapped shutdown, which is retained accessory power. So retained accessory power is basically when you shut your car down, your radio will stay on until your door is open. That gray wire pulses your door trigger with a negative pulse. It makes it think the door is open, and it will shut your radio down for you. So what I'm going to do first is program this up before I put anything back together. That's the way that I like to do it. You plug your key port back in. You're going to take your key, come over here, slide it into your key port. Key port will light up, the car will start dinging. You'll stare at your module, you come up to your push button start switch. You're going to push that 2 times until you see your ignition come on. Right now we have a red light, now we have a green light. It is programmed, and now your car will remote start. It's as easy as that. Take our key out. So my next step, now that we're programmed up, I'm going to get everything zip tied up. Get our module up out of the way, zip tie all our harnesses again, nice and solid, get the dash back together, then we'll pull the kick panel off and hook up our parking light and our our driver door pin switch. Alright, so I've reassembled the dash, and I've come down in the kick panel, like I was saying earlier. These are all soldered. This is your driver door pin. The paperwork says it's green, however the wire is actually brown. That's why you need to double, triple check everything you do. And then parking lights come up, they run into the fuse box. So that's all their wires there. So everything is done. We just need to harness that up. When I say harness it up, I just mean tape it up. We usually use Tessa tape or something like that. But gotta harness it up, put the kick panel back on. I've already tested it before I put this back together. Everything works. Alright, so I went ahead and I've harnessed this back up. I just used our regular Scotch 33 that we always use, just because basically the factory has the same exact crappy electrical tape on it. So at least it's back to looking like factory, like we never even went in there. Alright, so our last step, I've already tested this once, we're going to test it again now that everything's back together. So we come up here, 1, 2, 3, get the confirmation lights. Car fires up, the lights are going to flash a couple more times to let you know that it started. And your parking lights will stay on. So I just want to state too, this video is really only intended for novice installers that are just learning to do this. This is a super easy car. It's a super easy system to put in a super easy car too. So most of the ones that we do, there's a lot more wiring involved, a lot more cutting, tapping into. This car, everything's T-harnesses, it's cake. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer and you want to do this yourself, just take extra caution. If you've never touched a car before, or if you don't know how to use a drill or any of this kind of stuff, if you've never taken a car apart, don't attempt it. Take it to somebody that knows what they're doing. If you're in Philadelphia, come take it to me. I'll be glad to do it. But I'm not responsible if you guys, fry out your BCM. Anything that you do that's wrong, I'm not responsible. It's just a quick intro video, something meant to be simple. So I hope it helps somebody out there. So enjoy it. Peace.